Hi, everyone. We're wrapping up. I actually just wanted to briefly introduce myself. My name's Emily Broad-Lieb, and I direct the Food Law and Policy Clinic here at Harvard. So we are educating law students about how to engage in these and other food policy issues by working on projects for clients and partners and trying to facilitate real change. And I just wanted to give a round of applause to the students for putting together an amazing event today. I've only been here for the second half. I have a new baby at home, but I wanted to be here to cheer them on. They've worked on this really hard. And I also am just thrilled to see so many people here. Thank you for coming out, students and community members, and for being engaged in this issue. And I'll be here for a little bit at the event, the reception afterwards, so hope to meet people and find ways that we can continue to partner with new organizations. And I'll turn it over to Alicia to introduce the last speaker.
Okay. Thanks, Emily. So we have one more speaker. We have Elizabeth Hallinan from the ALDF. She focuses primarily on litigation regarding farm animal welfare and food safety. She's a graduate of NYU School of Law and has worked for several animal and environmental legal firms and nonprofits. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me? Okay. So I have good news and I have bad news. The bad news is that I was slated to tell you all about antibiotics and the laws related to antibiotics, except your keynote speaker did such a fantastic job covering that whole area that I'm not going to bore you by giving you that speech yet again. So what I offered to do is to talk a little bit about something I'm very familiar with, which is if you care about these issues, particularly if you're a law student, how do you get involved? Particularly, how do you get a job doing this sort of thing? I graduated from NYU last year. I'm currently a litigation fellow at the Animal Legal Defense Fund, which is sort of like the parent chapter or the parent organization of the SALDIFs that you might experience at your law schools. And so I'm going to go over kind of the advice I was given, the experience I've had, and I'm happy to take any questions about people thinking about entering into this field in whatever capacity they're interested in. So there are sort of different approaches that you can take, especially if you're a law student. My experience is in litigation. You may feel that you want to sue the bastards and try to use the law that does exist to do something. But there's also policy or regulatory work. You've heard a lot about regulations that exist, and those things can be changed through comments or petitions, and often they don't involve litigation, but for those of you taking leg reg or administrative law, you know that there's a lot of law that actually is involved in trying to get these regulations changed. You can also do general advocacy or citizen organizing, the sorts of stuff that Paul and Erica do. And then lastly, I want to put in a special plug for expertise. I get a sense we have a lot of scientists in the room, and I cannot tell you how helpful you guys are, especially to us litigators, because courts never believe us unless we have evidence that the things that we want to try to change actually have scientific backing. So I'll start off by saying that when I was in my 2L summer, I went and worked at ALDF, and I went to my boss, Carter Dillard, and I said, this is what I want to do. How do I do it? And he said, go be a prosecutor. And I thought, what are you talking about? I don't want to prosecute. And he pointed out to me, as have others in our field, that many of, particularly the animal welfare laws, they cannot be brought by private citizens or by organizations. They're usually animal cruelty laws or crimes. And so as a result, you have to be a prosecutor in order to bring these cases. Someone had asked Erica and Paul about why it's often the workers in the factory farms on these undercover videos that are ones that are charged with the crimes, and partly because it's very hard to convince a prosecutor to go after a whole corporation, even if you could somehow link that behavior on the video. Prosecutors don't want to bring down a whole corporation. What they want to do is pick the, quote, bad apple, go after that person, put them in the jail for a year. That's just a much easier case to bring. So if you understand the issues that are happening on these farms and you're in a prosecutorial situation, you can do a lot of good that those of us who work at nonprofits can't do because we're not the state. We can't bring those kind of charges. In addition, I was then told that I should go work in government. Very similar idea. If you are at EPA, if you are at FDA, if you are at USDA, and you understand these issues, you can do a lot more inside the government than you can from the outside trying to make these kind of changes. Very similar idea. And then finally, I was told that I should go work at a big corporate law firm. which was very surprising for me to hear also. And the idea is that corporate law firms have a lot of resources. They have a lot of expertise in lots of areas of law. If you have a job at a law firm where you can use some of your pro bono hours to help these small nonprofits that don't have a lot of staff, don't have a lot of time, you can do so much good by helping them to bring cases. At ALDF, we have a whole database of pro bono counsel that we work with. Almost every case we bring, we try to bring expertise in terms of partners or associates at big law firms that have the kind of resources that we just can't offer. So if you're a law student and you think that you really want to do some of this work, but you've already summered at a law firm, or for various other reasons you need to pay off your loans, that working at a law firm really fits with your life, you can still do a lot of good. Find an animal or an environmental organization that needs your help. Try to convince your pro bono coordinator to give some of your time that the law firm will pay for in order to help organizations bring suits or work on regulations or work on petitions. That's one of the best things you can do. It also means that you're bringing these issues to a corporate world, to a private law firm world that might not otherwise have ever come across these kind of issues. Okay, so those are all the things I didn't do, because I ended up going into sort of more direct litigation action. So I've been really lucky. I'm what's called a fellow at ALDF. They have a program in which they take law students straight out of law school, 1, 2, or 3 years, and they basically train us with the idea being that we are then somewhat expertise in animal welfare litigation, and we can then go out and join other organizations that might not be doing animal work, or we can open our own firms, or we can work at Compassion Over Killing or Humane Society. And I know ALDF is not the only organization that does this. COK takes summer interns, HSUS has fellowships. So if it's something that you don't want to do any of these other options like I did, you were like me and you just wanted to go and do direct work, that's the first thing that I would suggest. Look at the organizations you're interested in. NRDC, Center for Food Safety, almost all of them have some kind of fellowship program. There are other options like Equal Justice Works, and Skadden Fellowship. There are places that will pay you for a year or two to go do public interest work. So if there's an organization you want to work for, but they don't have a position open, you can always try to get outside funding to see if you can go do a year or two working at the organization that you care about. To give you kind of a sense of the sorts of things that I do, if this is something you're sort of interested in, I thought I'd go over some of ALDF's most recent litigation that we've been part of to give you a sense of the kind of work that you could do. We do a lot of work on labeling. We haven't really talked about it this time because I understand this conference last year addressed labeling, but one of the big problems for consumers is they want to buy better products, they want to use their consumer dollars, but the labels that are on the products, especially meat and egg and dairy products, are often very mislabeling. We try to fix that by actually going after the producers or suing the government for not regulating those labels properly. So one of the cases I first worked on, we went after a company called Hudson Valley Foie Gras. They're the biggest foie gras producer in the country. They're based out of New York. And they were using the slogan that they were the humane choice, which seemed a bit ludicrous to us, the idea that you could take geese and ducks and shove a pipe down their throat and force feed them food would somehow make them a humane choice. And so we actually went after them directly. We represented a vegan pate producer that makes a product called Foie Gras, and we represented her in her case up for basically competitive disadvantage, that people, if they thought they were buying a humane choice by buying Hudson Valley Foie Gras, wouldn't necessarily use her product, which was a truly humane product. And in fact, as a result of that, Hudson Valley did actually remove that label as the humane choice. Another study that another suit that I'm involved with, we're doing with Compassion Over Killing. COK had petitioned the government, particularly the FDA, the USDA, and the FTC, to try to improve labels on egg cartons. So as we were talking about earlier, people want to buy cage-free or free-range eggs to try to buy better products, but those labels basically aren't regulated. And all the time, people will claim cage-free, or they'll have pictures of, hens in a field, and those are really coming from battery cage operations. And so COK has asked the federal government to actually mandate labels that will make that clear, so that if you really are cage-free or you really are free range, you get the benefit of those labels, and if you're not, you can't pretend otherwise. Not surprisingly, the various agencies COK petitioned have denied starting that kind of a regulatory scheme. And so now we, along with COK, and we're helping represent them, are suing them in court, saying that, that they've arbitrarily or capriciously denied those petitions. Finally, another thing that pro bono is helping us on, and is sort of not necessarily obvious to people in law school, is you can often get involved in lawsuits even if your organization is not directly involved in the suit, by being what's called an amicus. This is a friend of the court. You get to write briefs and submit them to the court and say, you know, Your Honor, these are more facts you should consider, or this is background on the law. And you can try to influence the way the lawsuit goes by basically being this friend of the court and giving them more information. So ALDF has done this in several varieties. Most recently, California has started to institute this ban on foie gras. So now if you're in California, you can't force feed a duck, nor can you sell the product of foie gras in California. Well, Hudson Valley and a bunch of the foie gras producers didn't like that. They've sued the state of California, saying that that's a violation of the Constitution, specifically the Commerce Clause, and they've now lost at the Ninth Circuit twice. We were amicus on that case because as it was basically a suit directly between the foie gras producers and the state of California, but as animal welfare groups, we wanted to weigh in and say, you know, Your Honor, this is what happens. This is what happens on foie gras farms, and these are the reasons that California banned this particular sale. Most recently, following Prop 2 in California, the California legislature passed a ban that is about to be instituted, or will start to come into effect in January, which says that eggs cannot be sold in California that have come from hens that don't have enough room to move around, as was passed in Prop 2. So if you're, say, an egg producer in Missouri and you keep your eggs in battery cages, according to this new law in California, you cannot sell your eggs in California. Well, the Missouri Attorney General doesn't like that and has sued California, saying that that ban on that sale is unconstitutional and also is preempted by the Egg Products Inspection Act. They have been joined by 5 other states. And again, this is a situation in which we're not a party. ALDF is not a party because it's between the Missouri Attorney General and the state. But we are going to intervene as amicus again to try to give more information to the court to help hopefully support the state of California uphold that ban. So those are ways, particularly that our pro bono help us at law firms, because they have the time and expertise to know how to draft those kind of amicus briefs. Finally, we do some policy work at ALDF. So we have petitions out for labeling. Particularly, we have submitted a petition to USDA, again, as a way to inform, to make sure consumers can use their dollars to inform their choices. We've asked the USDA to start a labeling scheme for antibiotics, so that meat and poultry that are raised with or without antibiotics are labeled so that you, consumers in the supermarket, can actually put your dollars towards the products that you want to support. So that's sort of the sort of things you might do as a litigator. There's a whole other group of things that you could do. So if you have expertise in food safety or tort law, those are things that are coming up. If you can then represent people who get sick from these antibiotic-resistant strains of bacteria. People have talked about antitrust. That's something that our movement knows nothing about, but is going to become an issue soon. The other thing that comes up a lot is trade secrets and FOIA. If you're interested in open government, in access to information, this holds us up all the time. We can't do anything about the systems if we don't know about them. So if that's sort of an expertise that you're interested in, you can make a huge difference in helping the groups that are involved in this bring that kind of expertise to the table. Tons of environmental work, obviously, if you're interested in Clean Water Act or Clean Air Act, obviously NRDC and Earth Justice, there are whole groups that do that kind of work. My final pitch is for the scientists in the room. I cannot tell you how helpful science is in litigation. We really cannot do anything unless we can prove to the court that there's science backing up our claims. In particular, if you have an interest in the humane treatment of animals. That's an area in which we're really lacking science. So if you are an animal behavior person or you've studied captive animals, that is hugely helpful. And particularly in the animal welfare movement, it's often hard to find those people because they feel that if they study animals, then we don't like them because we're in the animal rights movement. So if you're a scientist, please consider if a litigator approaches you to be an expert in a case or be a witness in a case, because it's invaluable. We can't do anything without you. And I think that's it. Anyone have any questions?
Also, if anyone has any questions they want to go into in detail with you, are you going to be out?
Yep, I'll stick around.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess we could wrap up.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming. There's dinner that's served out in the lobby area, just right outside the door to the right. So there's a lot of good stuff. But thank you so much for coming. It's been a great day.